All right, ladies and gentlemen, for whoever's tuning in, I want to say thank you to all the viewers. Thank you for taking your time to come out. And of course, I got a very special first guest. This is another first. This is my first in person I got the book on. I'm glad I got to do it with my brother today. Usually I do intros, but since we're in person, I like you to tell the people about yourself. Anything you want to say, nothing too constrictive.
No intro for me. I gotta do my own intro. Nah.
I usually mess it up. That's the reason why, because I did it once before.
Yeah.
And I crushed the man's name, and I'm like, there's no edit for that, and forgot what you would tell me. Sorry.
So I'm Kervin Searles. I am a therapist with Gravity Counseling Group, which is based in South Carolina. We provide individual, family, and couples therapy in South Carolina. We're hoping to expand into the surrounding states over the course of the next year. That would be Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida. And, we'll see how it goes from there. Also, I'm a co-host of a podcast called Speaking with Gravity, where we kind of focus on very much the same thing you're doing with mental health and just bringing awareness to mental health overall. But also to the African American community, because that's something that we haven't really spoken about as much in my lifetime, at least. So that is me in a nutshell. Also, I'm a husband, a father. I like to say that often because I'm more than just what I do, So I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a nephew, I'm a son, I'm a brother, cousin, and an overall friend too. At least that's what I try to be.
Wow. Amen. Okay, see, no one can do it better than you. I would have butchered that. If you'd have sent me that, and I've done it before. People send me that, and I'm sitting here trying to read it, and it was awkward. But you're right. I'm gonna get my hostings. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get that right. So anyway, first off, everybody knows what we're here for, to talk about mental health in the African American community.
Yes, sir.
Specifically, men. Hyper specifically about black men. So when we talked before, I was pleased. Most therapists that I speak to, I've only spoken to probably 2 or 3 that have a private practice. All the others are probably either not government funded but work for the government, and they're like, I rarely see black people. I'm like, all right.
They say they rarely see black people.
Some of them, only one.
Okay.
One person, she works directly for the state for people who are getting released from prison. So people who go to halfway houses.
Okay. Yeah, it kind of depends on that program, Yeah. Even though it's a government program, some of them are more geared towards certain populations. No, they rarely going to say it's for black people, but it might be for based on economics or even the geographically. I can't say that word, but. Based on that kind of determines who you see and what who you don't see. But I'm in private practice, so I kind of see whoever come to me, and whoever I'm gearing my audience towards. So
she works for the prison practice, and they funnel her through, and it's mostly black. But yeah, for the most part, some of them are like, I don't see too many black men. It's mainly, if it is black people, it's black women. And they're like, I got a couple of black men. She's like, a couple of them, they're majority women, only one other. I only see black men. So to rewind, I wanted to recast. I wanted people to, I think there's 2 ends to therapy. Sometimes I think about my therapist, my past therapist, too much, but I got a transparency. I'll let it go. I got a codependency issue from my mother, and so she was a middle upper age young woman, Christian African American woman in her late 50s. So I kind of like attached to her, but anyway, what's the point I was getting to? Every therapist, like we said, has a niche. There's a reason they do this. I wanted to let the people need to know, you guys are humans too. Even though you guys work with us, you guys have your own lives, and plenty of therapists. I'm in a couple of therapist groups. They're like, therapists need therapists. I want to start off cutting off a misconception before we get why therapists do this, how they handle this, and then we can get on to the black man. But I want you to give people your story, short change story of why you're a therapist. What was the catalyst to you becoming a therapist? Why you do this, and why does it hold such a place in your heart?
Yeah. So me and you had spoken prior to. I went to college. I went to Anderson. It was Anderson College at the time. It was Anderson University now. Again in Anderson, South Carolina. Big ups to them. Don't think they're listening, but big ups to them. And in school, man, I was kind of that person that people ended up coming to and talking with. I majored in psychology. I changed my major 5 times.
As all college students will do.
I ended up in psychology, and the reason I ended up in psychology is a couple of reasons. But the biggest one being, all I had to have was a 2.0 to graduate. So I was like, all right, I ain't got to go in too hard in the paint. So yeah, and this is kind of cool. I like learning about psychology, and if you talk to a psych student, one of the biggest things is having to write papers. I was a pretty good writer, so that wasn't hard for me. So like I kind of failed there. And then in psychology, you start learning all the different paths that you can take, and therapy was one of them. But that wasn't in undergrad. That wasn't the biggest thing that stuck out for me. It was just okay. I'm a major in psych. I like psych. I didn't really know what I wanted to do per se, like as far as therapy is concerned. I just knew a lot of things that I could do with psychology. But once people start talking to me, and then my first job out of college was working at a group facility, a group home, and we worked with was it all guys? Yeah, it was all guys there, and we worked with kids who were there for various reasons. And then I met the therapist that we had on site, and started figuring out, okay, this is what he does or he's supposed to do. And I said, you know what, I can do that. And then that began my me kind of going into therapy and counseling. And then as I began to do it, I had more of it just became natural. Anxiety was probably the easiest one for me. Just helping people kind of get a control of their anxiety, the symptoms that are associated with it, helping people to slow down, recognizing when I'm being aware and when I'm being super aware, hypervigilant. And then once I got the diagnosis, I love working with people who are going through a transition, be it from college to adulthood, or from high school to college, or maybe they just got married and they got trying to figure out, okay, how to go from being this person that I was before I was married to being this person while I'm married, having kids. When you have kids, that's a transition. Yeah. So, we have all of these transitions in life, and everybody don't transition well. And some people transition well, but they still have some type of anxiety that comes along with it. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it? Am I in my correct lane, so to speak? So it went from anxiety to working with people like that. I also did anger management and domestic violence. And in doing those things, man, the African American male just kept connecting with me, and naturally. And you would get sometimes where they would get to a situation where they were like, oh well, I tried this before, whether it was therapy or whether it was when I'm talking anger management or parenting classes, it's classes, right? You're just going through there for a period of time. It's not their quote unquote therapy, but they would talk about their previous experience if they had one. And it's like, this experience isn't like the last experience. And it kind of boils down to it. There's one of the things that they say with therapy is the most important thing is the therapeutic alliance. It's not about what type of therapy you have. It's not about the interventions necessarily, but it's the therapeutic alliance. And that's a commitment that I as a therapist and you have as an individual we connect together to come to a goal, or we're gonna work together to get to a certain point. That means you believe in me, I believe in you. The credibility, the rapport that you have, all that is a relationship. In essence, it's a relationship. We put therapeutic in front of it because you're coming to me. There's a transaction there, right? You're gonna pay me and for my services, and we met this way. But it's a therapeutic relationship. I have in mind. I know in mind. I'm helping you get to a certain spot. But in a nutshell, I hope I answered that question, because I can kind of go off on a tangent, but I'm trying to stay with it.
No, you made up a lot of good points, because like I said with my therapist, I was about to say, we made that type of relationship because of something that it was she filled the void in what I wasn't getting from my mother, which is why she exposed to me, you got codependency issues, and this is why. So she started off, I said before, but she started off as my marriage counselor. Then my ex-wife at the time, she quit, she stopped going, so I just kept going to the marriage counselor. So she just became my therapist. And she told me, she was like, all right, you got codependency issues with your mom, you carry that into this marriage, and that's why you having issues with this woman. You picked this woman because she mirrors things of your mom, and you're trying to recreate that here and now with this woman, but she's not it. And long story short, it ended, so we're done. But a good question is, there's a lot of misconceptions that we, especially our community, don't know about therapy. And the one thing you said, you corrected yourself. You was like, you said first it was to get to a goal, but then you said it's to progress to something. So one misconception I think is that, even I have to correct myself, therapy is not an end all be all. It's not a pill you take. It's like, I don't want to be drab and compared to something like a terminal illness, but it's something that is continuous. Like, no, I don't think, me personally, I don't think no one human being is going to be enlightened. Like, nobody can be Buddha. Like, I'm not to say he's fictional, but that's a religion. You know what I mean? So it's something you're constantly going to work to. But if you're going to do that, and you said a relationship, how do you feel about people, let's say, either counselor or therapist bouncing? I think there are some old school therapists that are like, you say it's a relationship, it's something you gotta work out. In that marriage, I just try to stick it out because we married. How do you feel about people who are like, probably don't give it that much time, like within a month they gone, find another counselor, find another therapist? I've heard other therapists like, yeah, you should try other therapists though.
So when it comes down to like the beginning of therapy, I like for a person to kind of give me 3 or 4 sessions. By then you should definitely know if we vibe together or not. But I also don't think that I should be your only therapist. The reason being is because I'm only going to give you so much, right? So if you come to me for anxiety, I might help you a lot, but I might not be that therapist that can really connect. There are some therapists who focus on like brain activity, and they can go through all the brain and tell you what's connected to what and how it's connected. And as you're going through, various feelings and emotions, they can kind of explain that to you. I can't do that. Am I aware of it? Yes. Do I study it? No. What I study is what I'm gonna give you. So if you need just a little bit extra, if you need those clinical words, or I don't always talk in exercises or coping skills. I do exercises, and I do try to develop or give you coping skills, but let's say for instance, I'm gonna do for anxiety, there is breathing techniques obviously that people go through, but that's not my go-to. Like, that ain't the first thing that I'm gonna tell a person. And if that's what you want to do, then you might need to go to a therapist that's gonna focus on breathing and mindfulness and all of that. I'm not saying that I don't agree with it, but that's not my focus, right? Also, I like to connect. I like a lot of connecting where you been to where you are right now. There are some therapists who only focus on the here and now. So I feel like not having different therapists at the same time, because we can mess around and we can contradict each other without. But if you have me for a time period and I've taken you to a certain spot and you want to go somewhere else, all right, you can go somewhere else. Or if you have me like, all right, I kind of know what he's gonna say now. I know how he's gonna come at me now. And you might feel like stuck. All right, let me go check this person out. And then you might check that person out and be like, okay, they helped me here, but I feel more comfortable. And come back to me. I'm okay with all of that. I can't. You have to do what's best for you in the end. And we really do know what's best for us. We just kind of have to be pushed and sometimes touched, in different ways. And I think that's a big part of therapy.
So the key thing, man, I'm gonna say, because of my codependency, I see her as our godmother. Like her, like I always want to be in touch with her, and I am, and that's a relationship I'm gonna cherish for life. I feel like I can. And my big problem is women. That I was married, so my biggest problem, the type of person I am, is women. I felt like she was a gold mine, a golden ticket. Any problem I have nowadays, I have with any women in my generation, I go in and say, all right, look, this is what she's doing. What I don't get it, because I try not to. I don't know clinical, but sometimes I'm like, all right, maybe there is a female in the male brain, because there's some stuff that they be saying that doesn't click. Like, you really think that, or think like it's just not. I don't be getting it. So I ask her, and she gives me the answer, and I'm like, all right, cool, I can do this. But okay. So to carry on to the point of relationships, you say you've given some examples of what type of therapy. You do breath work, not to say shock therapy, but that's the thing.
That's the thing that I do not do, but
that
is the thing.
I don't know. I guess psychiatrists would do that.
I don't know. I don't even want to sound crazy, so I don't know where we at with this shock therapy now.
Is that taboo now? Is that?
I can't even tell you, because I was never really interested in it. Yeah. I know they did something along those lines when it came down to trying to shock people into going from gay to straight, if I'm not mistaken. And so from there, that I got turned off from there. Now, mind you, what I'm telling you is what I believe I read in undergrad, so that's a couple of years ago. And I have to do my research on that, but I'm not a fan of shock therapy. But I do know that there are some things that they do with the brain. Just can't remember exactly what it is.
Sometimes I read, so I bought a Reader's Digestible version of the DSM. Man, I read that, and some of that stuff I'm like, start turning Japanese words, start blurring. The therapy words are so long a bit. But anyway, the question I wanted to ask is, if you could define, and I want you to be clear, take your time if you want, for people who, for some reason, this is their first listening of what therapy, if you could define what is therapy to you, define it to someone who like has heard the word of the concept for the first time in their life. They're listening to this and they're like, all right, why is everybody talking about mental health and therapy?
First of all, that's a great question, and I would challenge you to, anytime you have a therapist on, just to ask them that question. What is therapy? We're going to say some of the same things, but we're going to say it in a different way. For me, what is therapy? I was listening to Ileana Vazant, or whatever her name is.
Ileana Vazant. I listened to her a lot. I watched the show.
Okay.
Ileana Vazant.
I like how she put it to Charlemagne a couple of weeks ago, when she said, are you doing healing or are you doing growth? Right? And when I'm thinking about therapy, you have therapy, and then you have life coach, business coach, purpose person, people. And if we're talking about a life coach, health coach, we're talking about coaching, we're talking about growth. When you're talking about healing, you can be a coach, you can be a therapist and be a coach, but you can't be a coach and be a therapist. Or you should not. I should say.
I want to break the train of thought, but I'm in a Facebook group that's full of therapists, and I asked that question, and I asked about her specifically, and boy, what a whirlwind! I was like, this is a topic. If this podcast blows up and I get to have a panel of therapists, black therapists, I'm gonna ask that, and they go crazy. But go ahead.
I wasn't necessarily a fan of hers until I heard her say that, because with that, I feel like she has an understanding of it. I don't watch the show per se, so there's certain things you got to do for TV. I don't care who you are. There's certain things you got to do in order to keep.
They may be, or they say they are.
Yeah, but Going back to your original question of what is therapy, it's a combination of growth and healing. And for me, it's connecting. It's becoming self-aware. Just mind focus. When I'm with someone coming to me, self-awareness is big for me. Emotional intelligence is big for me. So it's connecting my thoughts, it's connecting my feelings, and it's connecting my behavior. I always say, if you can change either one of those, you change all of them. So if I change somebody's behavior, if my behavior is changed, then my feelings and my thoughts will change as a result of my behavior. If my feelings are changed, my behavior and my thoughts will change. If my thoughts are changed, then obviously my feelings and my behavior change. Like they all are connected. They affect each other. So you get in there and you change either one of those, then you change various things. So when I'm talking therapy, it's really self-awareness, connecting those thoughts, those feelings, emotions, and that behavior, connecting it from the beginning of time up until now. If you come in, you said earlier about being goal focused or growth focused. I mean, what were we talking about? You said something about goals, but or continuous go, trying to attain a goal and then being continuous. Well, if you get to the point where you can actually come in, there's somebody who might actually have a goal. Grief therapy. Somebody passed away, bam, I just need to get through this. Yeah. And then they actually get through that. Now they may continue and they may feel like, okay, I got through it because I got through it. But I'm more along the lines of what you were saying about it's continuous. Yeah. It's ongoing. But there are some people who come in specifically for this. And once they get help with this, then they're done.
I was about to say, even those people who think, not everyone has their right to their own adult. Even people who think that I'm just here for the goal, there's things that happen due to that grief that are inadvertent and unconscious that you're not aware of. So like I said, it's it's a never. And not to be so drab, I think people hear me say that I need to watch my words and figure out my delivery, but it's not dark, it's not drab. It's a great journey to me. This is why I started this. This is why I say I'm an advocate. I'm advocacy because me personally, I like going to a therapist. So for me, I consider myself to be a mind and an intellect. And a general people, and don't get it misconstrued, safe spaces are so real and important. You need to find people that you can just openly talk to about things, and you don't think, and you don't in the back of your mind are like, maybe I don't need to tell them this part, maybe I need to change the story here. That's important. You need a safe space. But for me, I need some fact. I need either just some facts, and I need to be told, yes, you need to do that, or no, you need to do that. But with my therapist, I know that ain't it. But I continue to go to therapy. I know you, if I come to you and I say, hey, I'm having this issue, should I do this or should I do that? You can't tell me what you want to do. Because if I go do that and something happens wrong, I come back and say, man, you told me to do this stuff and look what happened. Y'all, I don't know if it's legal or not, or if it's an ethical thing. You guys just can't tell us to do that. But, okay, so you said something. Oh man, I forgot what you said already. But we're gonna go to Black Man. I think we spoke enough about.
I think I was talking about continuous.
Okay.
And it don't have to be when with continuous. Again, you don't. It doesn't have to be every week. It doesn't have to be every other week. I have people who have ran their course. We've met every other week or whatever, and then they'll stop, and then I hear from them a year later, and then we'll link up for a couple of sessions, and then we'll stop, and then I hear from them again a year later, or a year and a half later. And it's just like, okay, at different points and times, they just meet it's almost kind of like a physical, right? Yeah. You go in for a physical once a year, and if something's going on, you continue. If nothing's going on, you go in for that physical. They say, hey, you're here, bam. Of course, a therapist can't say, oh, you okay? Yeah. You're here. I ain't gonna say we can't say it. We may say it, but that's not typically what you're gonna get. Nobody's gonna say, okay, your life is fine, you don't need to come back. We're not gonna say that.
I don't think it's ever gonna happen to nobody. We all live in this country. We live in reality. I always say this. My therapist said that. So I kind of attached to her, and as you was leaving, you said a long time ago, you said you'll be able to tell what your therapist is gonna say. And sometimes I knew she was gonna say certain things. She said, I'm like, dang. And then sometimes I would come to a session, and she'd be like, how you feeling? Y'all do that whole temperature check at the top. She's like, what's going on? How's it feeling? And I would mumble my words. She's like, if nothing's going on, you don't have to do a session. We could just, and my anxiety just blew out the meter, and I figured out an issue that probably wasn't even an issue I thought of to continue the session. I think she caught on to that. She's like, all right, you abandonment issue. I have abandonment issues with her through my codependency. And she was like, listen, Isaiah, this is going on. You gotta do the work. And I always tell people that therapy is not going to work if you don't do the work. That's another misconception I try to tell
Exactly.
People don't think you're gonna come to therapy and just I'm going to talk to you for an hour, go away and think that hour of talking is what's helping. Whatever your therapist tells you, you have to do the work. All right, anyway.
And reflect on it. Process it. To some degree, just getting stuff out in the open and talking about it, yeah, that is part of it. It really is. But that's only 10% of it, 20% of it. The rest of it is processing it, reflecting on it, and making changes accordingly. And when I say accordingly, small changes is still a change. Small changes lead to big changes. And then sometimes not changing, if you do that reflection correctly, then when you don't change, you'll see or say to yourself, I didn't make this change that was suggested, or this change that I knew I needed to do. And look what happened.
I'll have some minutes and attest to there's about 2 or 3 things that she says, if you do this, your life will 180, and it won't, like you said, she's like, you can be good, but these problems won't reinvent themselves. So not everyone, people who go to therapy usually probably have a self-destructive cycle. And she's telling me, when it hits right here, when it hits this low, you keep doing the same thing. And I think at a certain point we had a relationship, she knows what I'm not doing. She said, you need to do this and you'll be up out of it. I will admit, it's hard. I could be a mental health advocate and have this. I will be transparent and let you know, it's hard. Like, basically I have to talk to my dad. I have to talk to my dad and my parents. Another reason why I saw an image of marriage that was really toxic and to reinvent itself, I wasn't mature enough to do the things. I need to talk to them. I really can't talk to him. I don't want, at this point, I understand myself. If I'm as smart as I say and I think I am, I know I'm not ready to talk to him. I try to convey that to my therapist. She's like, okay, but you do know you're gonna have to do it, right? Like, your life, the next marriage you're gonna be in, the same thing's gonna happen. Dang, I really don't want to talk. She's like, he gonna die. He's in his mid-60s. I said, he's gonna die, Isaiah. And then that cycle might not stop. Think about it. If he dies, do you want to keep doing this? Do you want to be in a marriage with him? But anyway, what I wanted to get to, you made a great point about men's being emotionally intelligent or not. And before I want to preface, before we go straight into it, for obvious reasons, you're biased, whatever. But it's, what hooked you on, or what makes you want to focus or hyper focus on black men per se?
Yeah. When you say bias, it's like a therapist like, oh no, I'm not biased. But I'm an African American male. I live this life every day. We haven't been there yet. We haven't talked about it, but racism is real, right? And a part of the racism and the influence of racism, it isn't just racism itself. It's the battle in your mind of, is it racism or isn't it? Did I see that or did I not see that? Am I making too much out of this or am I not making too much out of this? It's something that you're having to navigate, from day to day. And I think therapy can help with that. Therapy can help you really explore, all right, when am I just leaning on this whole racism thing, and when am I really seeing it? So that's important. I also see a lot of times I see it a lot, whether it's in therapy or whether I'm mentoring someone. I do sometimes. I haven't in the last year and a half, 2 years. think it's been 2 years. I haven't in 2 years done any coaching, but I do like, youth rec league coaching or whatever. And when you do that, over time you kind of build yourself up within the community, and people start coming to you, whether they're going to talk to you in therapy or not. They just kind of come to you. Well, I see guys, African Americans, who have no clue what they want to be when they grow up. I see grown men who have no clue what they want to be when they grow up. I see people who don't have a purpose, and it's not that they really don't have one. They just never made themselves sit down and focus on it and see what I like and so on and so forth. And I feel like I can help with that, especially in the African American community. And when we talk about giving back, everybody does whatever they do. You're a basketball player, you are a engineer, you're a doctor, and then you go in with your career and then you want to give back, right? This is my career is my giving back. Therapy, just being able to help in this way with the community that I engulf myself with, my culture, my background as being black, but also in my own little physical community of my city. So anybody that's in my city that sees me and connected with me, then I'm gonna give back therapeutically, in therapy or through mentoring or whatever.
Okay, so every therapist can't speak in caseload or you see or whatever you say, blah, blah. But would you say what's the diversity of your caseloads or clients that you have? Is it mostly men? Do you not seek out, but do you like not pass up on some people so you can be mainly black men?
No, I never pass up on somebody to create a space that's not ethical, but I don't do that. Okay. Cause you don't even know, even though of course I want to do therapy with African American males, but they're not gonna fill up my practice. So I might get to a point where it's like that, but right now I'm not at that point. So anybody that come through those doors, if I can help them, I will. But there are times when I can't help people, and they may be African American male. This has never happened to me, so I can speak on this one. But if an African American male came into me with a eating disorder, I can't help him. I don't deal with that. I can try to refer him out, and if I'm being honest, I don't even know anybody that I can refer him out to right now. So as much as I want to help with that, I can't help with everything. I can only help with what I've been trained in, what I'm knowledgeable of, what I like, or what I've experienced in the past. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you spoke on one thing that was, when I say the misconception team, there's a big fight. There's a huge sex war going on between our community, especially within my generation, millennial. I'm 28, and the number one thing that's an issue that we're having is basically black women are either disappointed, not encouraged to even, I wouldn't even say relate, but to have a conversation of, all right, we are in this together. This is a unity thing. Whether you guys like it or not, we're aligned at the hip. We're united. We are a tribe through this bloodline, whether you like it or not. We got to get this together. This whole race war thing is depriving us of progress, period. That's what I think. I think the two biggest things that are holding back the African American community is definitely resources, of course, economic equality, and lack of information. But that aside, within internal to us, the biggest thing is the sex war. But anyway, the biggest thing that women complain about men is our communication. We don't open up. We're not as emotionally available. And you said you work on some things with people. You need to work on whether they're emotionally intelligent or not. Mm-hmm. And I speak about that before. I said that before. I think on one of these things, I had to become more mature, and my emotionally intelligence is something that came with it that I was attached to. I had that problem. I will admit, I was a man who couldn't effectively communicate. There's a difference between talking, communicating, and then communicating clearly and effectively. Them three things is pretty different to me. And I wasn't doing the latter. I wasn't clearly communicating to my wife, my feelings and whatnot. So, from your and personal experience, from if you dealt with it, other men that you may have seen through therapy clients, nothing specifically, of course, I know, but what do you think? And it's men in general. Like when I said a podcast, it's for men, but for black men, you and I are a black man. What is it about us, or what either has happened? Is it societal programming that will cause us not to naturally understand? We need to be either attached to our emotions, connected, and we need to be emotionally intelligent. Like, this is something that's human. For some reason, for us, we don't see it as something as we do too. It's just something for women.
I don't know if I can say something has happened. I do feel like when you say programming, I think media plays a part. And media includes social media, traditional media, all of that. You know, it ain't just TV, it ain't just movies, it's not just newspaper, and it's not just social media. It's all of it kind of comes into play. The world, we see the world one way as an individual, and then the world as a whole see people as one, as a way, right? And so the way we view the world is going to kind of set us up our path. So as a man, when I was growing up, I'm just going to use myself for an example. There's so many things that I attach to, but Ric Flair, who's not African American, right? He's not African American. He's a wrestler. I like Ric Flair, and because I like Ric Flair, because this is when I was freaking 10, 11 years old. I'm watching wrestling. He's out there bragging about who he is, how strong he is. He can beat up everybody. And you know what else he bragged about? Women. How many women he had. How many women he can be with. This was on a regular wrestling show. What do that have to do with wrestling? Nothing. But I saw it. I liked it, right? But you know what else I liked? I liked Martin. The Martin show. And what did Martin have? He had a girl named Gina, and he really loved his girls. His girl, not girl. Girl without a S. And the S part, I was kind of getting ahead of myself. He loved his friends, his boys. They always crash in his spot. What did I do? I attached myself to that. I wanted to have an apartment like Martin had an apartment. I wanted to have girls like Ric Flair had girls. So I saw, these are the things that I was seeing. They're not necessarily connected to each other, but I was taking stuff that I was seeing. I was taking from that and implementing it into my own life. And, then I can get to my dad, my mom and my dad. As far as I knew, it was a beautiful relationship. And my dad passed away in March 4th, 2000. But up until that point, and ironically, I was trying to plan them a 25th wedding anniversary prior to him passing. But anyway, I saw them. I thought they were end all be all when it comes down to a relationship. Yes, I saw Martin and Gina. That was kind of the new thing, because like early 90s. But prior to that, I saw my parents. And ultimately, those two things together overtook Ric Flair and his, need to have multiple women. So to answer your question, when you said what kind of leads us to this, we see the world a certain way, and we take from what we see, and it becomes us. It's the world presents men in a manner in which they are not communicative. They don't communicate. When you look at shows, when you look at social media, you don't see a man just sitting down and saying, okay, family, what do y'all think about this? Okay, whoever. And what do? We respond. We react to whatever's happening to us first and foremost before we go into a whole conversation. And then typically, not to mention when you're younger, don't cry. Boys don't cry. They don't really say that as much anymore, but that used to be a thing.
It's a whole generation hooked on that.
Yeah. You had movies, and there was a movie Tom Hanks was in when he was like, there's no crying in baseball. Well, baseball is a man's sport. When I say a man's sport, you had softball, that was for women. Baseball was for men. So really what he was saying was, men don't cry. Men don't cry. So y'all can't be crying. If y'all gonna play baseball and not softball, you can't come over here crying. And that goes into even I was listening to a podcast or doing it. I can't remember, but somebody made the comment about young females sometimes want a man to communicate, right? They want him to talk. But when the man actually talks and communicate and say, you made me feel like this, then they degrade that person, because it's like, okay, you up in your feelings. You know? So, and then that goes back to me therapeutically saying all behavior is reinforced. Every single behavior that we have is reinforced. So it's reinforced even in a positive way or in a negative way, right? And if every time I go to my wife, if me and my wife having a conversation, I just let her know exactly how I feel and this, that, and the third. And she tells me every single time, you just up in your feelings. I can't stand da-da-da-da. Am I going to continue to come to her? Nah, because it's not going to end well. So that's the answer to your question. I told you I can go off on a tangent from time to time.
That's the point. On a podcast. That's the point. I brought you here to talk. So, and dang, funny on that. Ironically, we as men might do that to our women, but that's because of how we were brought up. We'll say it quick to say that if I be transparent, it's like, man, she always talking, she always venting, but we should take a kind of a page from there, but we shouldn't do what they do, because women we different. But like you said, we should see that as sometimes when I'm in my apartment by myself and I just say things out loud, or I think things through. I meditate. So when I meditate, I'm just talking in my head, technically out loud. When I'm done, I feel lighter for some. I can't explain it, but it's like lighter. It's like, so when you got stuff going around, that fog of your head, as they call it, head fog, that something is gone when I meditate, and I feel lighter. And I'm not understanding. I try my best. I got a little group chat full of men where I was like, we supposed to go axe throwing, and even when I'm trying to stay communicating just about that event, I'm not getting nothing. I'm like, hey fellas, it's this time? Nothing. Crickets. So what do I want to do? Crickets. And I'm just like it's so frustrating, because I'm at a point where I'm enlightened to a certain extent, but they not getting it. And sometimes even in this podcast, I'm like, how can I convey to us that we are losing? And that's probably the catalyst to this podcast. It was because when I saw George Floyd, I didn't watch the whole clip. I definitely didn't watch the whole 8 minutes, because I knew that would traumatize me in a different kind of way. But when it was over with, and before the cop got indicted or whatever, I'm like, I didn't look at this situation and say, we gotta go back and march. We gotta ramp up BLM again, Black Lives Matter again. I'm like, if this keeps happening, he was like number 13 or 14 in the string since 2010, since Trayvon Martin was his start. He was like number 13. So I think I'm smart. I'm sitting there looking at him like, alright, unfortunately, there's nothing we're going to be able to do about the U.S. government. We here are immigrants. Even though we're owed a lot, let's not get that twisted. There's probably nothing we could do. This is their government, they own it. So I'm like, what can we do as a black man to kill either the stereotype, what's been socially programmed to us and our women, to help us either, I don't know if we can prevent, but either prevent or help this interaction between law enforcement and authority, so they don't assume certain things. So they don't assume I'm older than I look, because you think because of rap and Jim Crow, I'm older than I look. But to get to another question, let's keep the conversation at hand with black men. Now, this relationship thing, forever, every podcast I look at, if anyone wants numbers and clicks, they talk about relationships. I'm not even going to speak about, there's two gurus, if you do know, if you're in the podcasting space. One got blown up. He was a guru who sat in his car a lot on Facebook, and he was always telling black men, you're this, you're not doing this, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
You're black man, you're low. He got his spot blown up, so I ain't going to talk about that chump. But there's another one who seemingly speaks for you and I, and he's combating black women about their requests and about their laundry list that they have, right? First of all, in short, what is your opinion of said individual?
All right, so you're not saying their names. I'm not gonna say their names. All right. Or do you want? I mean, I don't know if I don't know about this whole suing thing, and if you say their name or not.
No. It's just I don't. They already had their own platform, and there's no reason people know like
who they are.
Yeah, they know what I'm talking about. I don't speak pieces.
So
like that.
I think the first person, I think his name is Jackson or something like that. All right. So a good bit of what he was actually saying was true.
We always say that.
Yeah.
Black men were like, he right.
Yeah, he right. I think what we have to be careful about is even when you're speaking the truth, you have to know that you are no better than anybody. I'm no better than anybody. As a therapist, I can still get grief. I can still have anxiety. I can still be depressed. And when I go into a therapeutic setting, I'm not going into it like, hey, I'm the therapist. I've never been this way. I got anxiety hasn't really been that big of a deal for me over my lifetime. But I remember I was really like, I had to like breathe because I was at an event and it was a lot of people and that's never been my thing. Like I love people. And I had to come back and process it, but it was a big event, and it wasn't a pandemic or anything, but it was just a really big event, and I was there with my family, my wife and my kids, and what it boiled down to was the pressure to be a protector, and when I said the pressure to be a protective, like that's never been an issue for me, but in that moment, I started thinking about like all of the people that was around, the type of event I was at, which wasn't like a bad event, and the type of crowd that I was around, which was a lot of different people. And I was like, man, if this and this happened, and I started going down the list of if things happen, what I would have to do or what I would do. Well, when you start doing that, anything can happen.
Yeah.
So that's going to definitely increase. That's gonna be an uptick. I'm kind of getting off a little bit, but when we're talking about those two guys, the first one being he was telling the truth, but he was acting as if the truth didn't touch him. He was beyond that. He had moved beyond that. I'm in a full-fledged marriage right now. I've been married 15 years. That doesn't mean that I won't cheat at the end of this year and get a divorce. I don't plan on it. I plan on putting keeping myself out of certain situations, but you don't know. Who's to say I might blow up off of this platform right here? And they're like, oh man, now I got a whole new, the way that I've navigated up until this point, I haven't had to be introduced to so many different things. But if I blow up on this platform as right here, right now I'm faced with a whole new set of quote unquote problems, a whole new set of faces that's gonna come to me, and who's to say I'm gonna pass that test, right? And so I have to go, when I'm talking to people or talking to people, you have to keep that in mind. You can't be so hardcore that, you know what, I'm already there. And then the other person, turn off the TV and he won't be who he is, or you turn off whatever outlet he's on and he won't be who he is. He is who he is because he put himself out there and I haven't even watched everything of it. I've watched like clippets that people have put out there. That's how I know who he was. And then I tried to sit down and watch, like, I guess his show or whatever, his content. That's probably the best way to put it. His content that he put out there. I tried to watch it, and I haven't gotten past 20 minutes. So, and that's me trying to watch it, the game, because, yes, when somebody they come to me for therapy, I can't be in a shell. I can't have any clue as to what's going on in the world. I have to be cognitive of what's going on in the world, at least to some degree. I might not need to know everything, but to some degree I got to be cognitive of what's going on so that I'm able to help people process what they see from day to day.
Yeah.
But just anytime content or whatever you leader, mentor, whatever you're going to be, just be aware that it can happen to you just like it can happen to anybody else.
So the reason why I did brought them up is because both of them were on the opposite ends of the spectrum. The reason why I didn't listen to them, and I tell people who always tell me, especially brothers who are, you need to watch them, I'm like, they're both on opposite ends. I understand nuance. Sometimes it's hard for me to agree with one or other person because I always understand nuance. Someone is right in what they're saying in something, in the stream of consciousness where they spew out their idea or they thought what they believe. If they say 5 points, at least one of them was right. And so I hook on that right and be like, you can't always discount. So I'm always in the gray. But those two are on the opposite end of the stream. They're both black and white. One guy was literally pandering, the word is called pandering, to women to get what they want. The women was eating it up. And we as men, and they don't believe us because they've had some type of disingenuous or traumatized event or relationship with a black man, and now they're like, duh, we done with y'all. But we were sitting here trying to tell y'all, as much as y'all say we trash sees trash. And we know we say y'all, excuse my friend, if black men ain't shit, and there's a black man who y'all say we all ain't shit, but y'all eating up another black man who say we ain't shit, but y'all sitting here eating it up. And the men who actually y'all deem ain't shit, who are saying, yeah, he's trash, he cheats, he's actually, I'm literally telling you, nah, y'all mad, y'all just this is a man who upstanding, and he got a queen, he married, this is what y'all need to do, this is what y'all need to be. One in the spectrum, pandering to women. This other guy, there are black men who say he's not pandering to men, and there are black women who watch him who do agree with most of his points, which is, I'm not saying surprising. There are women who are substantial and expensive, but I felt like before I watched him, like you, I assumed I'm like, he's the other opposite of the spectrum. He's pandering to men, and because I only saw men pumping him up. Now, one thing I heard from a clip he says is probably true is we do need to control media. Black men need to get in media. There's a guy called Bob Allen who owns an entire, I think, either production company or studio where he's putting out, it's called All Black. Nothing but black people in black media. He's like, that needs to happen. I'm like, okay, I think I can listen to the brother. So if I'm not telling you too, but he's kind of expensive. But
both of them are exaggerating points. That's what it boils down to. They're exaggerating points, and people are keying in on it. And the more people key in on it, the more they exaggerate those points, and that's gonna get them in trouble every time.
And it's hurting
because you're gonna alienate. Either you're gonna get tripped up, or you're gonna alienate the very people that you claim to be helping.
So the reason why I brought up the other guy who's supposedly pandering to men is the number one complaint with us, like we said, emotional intelligence, and women say they can't connect with. All right, so like I said, we're going into the next thing. This could be an hour-long conversation. Like I said, when I watch podcasts, if they want clicks and they want views, they always talk about relationships. But the way in which we're going to speak about it has to do with the disconnect. All right, so the number one thing that black women are saying, and I spoke to a therapist, a woman therapist, and she literally asked me, she said, Isaiah, how long are black women supposed to wait? And I'm like, and she, of course, she elaborated very quickly. She's like, how long are we supposed to wait? Black women are doing this, and we doing this, and that, and we moving, and black men are stagnant. Now, let me preface the statement in saying, unfortunately, she is true. We as black men as a whole in this country had certain hurdles to go over that black women did not, and which caused us to be very regressive. Now, me being, the way I was raised through my uncle and being in the army, I'm a no excuses kind of guy. And so, even though that's a valid reason, but I'm saying we as black men shouldn't use it as an excuse. That's just my personal thing. Now, the reason why they say they're the most, I just want to say, this is just a sidebar. I feel like I just have to say this. Women are saying they're the most educated. The guy that we
they are.
So the guy that we just referenced, he said that there's an article out there, literally a fact. He said they aren't the most educated. He said they're the most enrolled. I said,
I don't.
So educated means you had a degree.
Yeah.
And so he says that as media, there is an actual agenda to separate and disconnect the black family. I feel like media is putting out this whole black woman's doing this. Not to say it's not right. I'm saying they're over embellishing to disconnect them from us, which is happening right now. So to say they don't need a man. So even if they probably are the most educated, but the actual fact statistic probably is these are the most people who have enrolled into classes. Some is just a certification. Some of it is not even the degree. That's what I'm saying. That's another tidbit about black media. That's why I'm like, maybe he's right. Maybe these women are just in school, man. They haven't even graduated yet. Maybe someone applied and dropped out. Nothing against you ladies. I'm a man who's about facts.
This was the article that I thought about when you said black women are the most educated. I read this in 2019. And the reason I remember that it was 2019, I had a presentation to do at a church about mental health. And when I did that presentation, I was the only man that was there. All right. Excuse me. It wasn't about mental health. It was about overall health. And they had people in the field, in the health field. So they had mental health and they had physical health. They had a dietitian and all of that. And I was the only man there that was in that field. And I think there were 6 speakers. Out of the 6 speakers, I want to say, it might have been 8 speakers, but I want to say like 3 of them were doctors, women. The other ones, we had all master's degrees, and again, I was the only man. And I just read that article, and I remember referring to it. And as I referred to it, I get this big round of applause because they didn't say it right, but they had obviously read the article, and so they knew it, and they appreciated that acknowledgement that I gave. But that article that I read, it was, they were educated, they had actually graduated. That being said, in dealing with the people that I dealt with over the years, I have seen where they have been supported in their education and supported by the man that they're involved with or supported by their family. In essence, rarely will you see a person tell a young lady at 16 or 17, you need to go get you a job. But they'll tell a male, which rightfully so, you need to go get you a job. And then sometimes when that male go get that job at 16 or 17 or 18, and he starts making, at this day and age, he starts making $20, $22, $24. It's like, why would I go to college of making this amount of money? And then he don't see it right then. Then he meets a young lady who's in school. She's in school to do something, right? She meets him. She'll tell him he needs to go to college, but he's like, nah, I'm making this money right now. And then he'll support her financially. And that cycle just kind of keeps going or whatever. I forgot what your original question was.
The disconnect. I'm saying we're not emotionally intelligent, and these are the women are saying. I spoke to a therapist and saying, how long are we supposed to wait?
Okay.
I think you're referring to. And there's such a disconnect, and we need to catch up. We really do.
Yeah, wait as long as it takes. But let's look at it like this. There's a statement that says anything you look for, you'll find it, right? And they typically use that phrase, in relationships. When it comes down to cheating, you look for it, you're gonna find it. Well, why we don't use that when it's time to come look for a good man? Because good men are out there. Me and you both know that there's good men out there, and we know that there are good men who are being used, abused, taken advantage of. And then we also know where there's really a good man, but he ain't good in this moment. Like right now, he got like 3 or 4 girls, 5 girls. He may actually be honest with them. He ain't trying to settle down, but he's really a good guy. All right. That goes
That's not good to women because that doesn't fit what they want.
Right.
I want you to automatically have a ring somewhere in your apartment. It needs to be sitting there collecting dust. And when I come through, when I tell you I'm ready and I'm worthy, you better pop out that ring in the next 6 months to a year. You better marry me, and we need to move like this. That ain't how stuff goes.
No. And the guy that I am now, I was always this guy as far as I was always going to be somebody's husband. I was always going to be a father and a good father because I had that in my mind. I wanted that in my life. I saw that in my mom and dad. I wanted that. And, if you had a conversation with me long enough, you was going to know that. But at 25, I wasn't trying to be married. At 25, I wasn't trying to have kids. So if you met me at 25, you didn't meet the guy that I am right now.
Yeah.
Do you wait for that? I say yes. I say yes, you do wait. When they say how long does it take, let's look at your choices up until this point. And now I'm starting to sound like old buddy, right? But let's look at your choices up until this point. Why did you do the things that you did? I'm not gonna clown you and say you shouldn't have done that. It's gotten you to where you are. You've learned from it, but you can't continue the same thing. There are guys out there. There are some guys. I hate to say it, for all the Christian people out there, there are some guys that's in the club that might be a good guy.
Listen, I just told a woman on Facebook earlier. She's like, some guy said I need to stop wasting my time in the club. They ain't no good men there. And we've been hearing that probably from the 90s. And I replied and said, there are good men everywhere. You need to go wherever you need to go. Here's another point I was about to make about women who keep complaining. I'm going to ask you this. No, this is... Do you think... Not always. Let's not say always. But there's obviously a disconnect. And this is what I think. Do women have a horrible judgment of character?
You're not gonna get me to.
Listen, this is my podcast. I'm gonna say it. Let me put it like this.
I plead the fifth.
4, 5, 5. But all right, let me put it like I'm gonna put it into my.
Some of us are not just women, but some of us are a bad judge of characters.
People are. I'll put it to you like that. But as me being a single man who dates and speaks with women on some type of accord. And when I actually listen, that's the big thing, men too. We gotta listen. Communication is a 2-part thing. It's listening and then responding with what they said in mind, and you responding to whatever they said.
I'm gonna add a third one: understanding.
Ooh, you're right.
Understanding.
There's a meme that says a lot of people say communication is key, and when I learned it's not just communication, it's comprehension with communication. You're right. Mm-hmm. Thank you, my brother. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, where's it going?
You were saying something about listening and responding.
Listening and responding. What's that going? What's the disconnect? What's the disconnect? Anyway, I'll go with another point. But this whole idea of them having to wait, there being a disconnect between education. Let's talk about the beginnings of why there's so they say there's a disconnect, and why there's a disconnect. They have this certain amount of education, and they're doing what they're doing. But I don't think, when they say they're not going to wait, I don't think they're listening to either our plight and why we got here and why there is a disconnect. And I don't think they're understanding. The biggest thing when I speak to women is they're not willing to understand our plight, and they don't care. They're like, oh, well, I'm black too, and so you can't say you dealt with any more not discretion or any more racism than we have. No, we're not saying, we're saying our plight is just different. You just don't have to move this hurdle. The big hurdles we're talking about is prison industrial complex. What else? I'll just go with that as far as black men, black and brown, right?
Microaggressions, in and out of work.
Dealing
Stereotypes.
with law enforcement.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Black women, this is not to discredit your worth or your value, but white America does not see you as a threat. They don't see you as harmful. Let me put it like that. They don't see you as dangerous. Black woman walks down the street, no matter how tall she is, what she does for a sport. An average white male or white police officer figures he'll be able to handle her if she causes any type of physical.
Mm-hmm.
He sees me as a different problem.
But that female, on the other hand, will see her as aggressive. What else? If it's another female that's not African American.
But we live in a patriarchy,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm not saying white women don't have power. White women have power. Ultimately, the head in this country is a white man.
Mm-hmm.
That trickle down, it affects us.
Mm-hmm.
So the powers that be, whether it be the Illuminati isn't real, but there are real powers in the underbelly of this country that run things. They're white men, and they aren't even letting their own women. White men aren't even letting their women on the inside. They say, "Hey, y'all got education, that's cool, but we run this. We've been doing this."
Mm-hmm.
And so those men who run it, they fear you and I. The look, the stereotype, the perception of you and I. That causes things. When they can put in real legislation on paper, things that can microaggressively affect me and how I can get work or get educated, yeah, you are above me. When you guys can find all these scholarships that are specific to black women, and there are none for black, they're not saying none, but none for black men. There are literally scholarships that say black women grant, black women scholarship. I've been searching. I can't find much that says scholarship for black men here. And I think that was a point I lost. There's no real support and movements going on. Granted, black women, yes, you're doing great. I don't want y'all to stop. I want y'all to keep going. My point of this here podcast is to get men support. I often tweet, Facebook, Instagram a lot. Hey, anyone who has a coalition, group, or initiative for black men specifically, hit me up. Crickets. Every day when I look on my social media, I see something for black women. There's like over 100 pages that say black women, whatever. Facebook groups, 50 plus, black women, whatever. You guys are being backed, and I don't think women get why they're being backed, because those white men under the underbelly say, we can't let these people really get this economic advantage. What are we gonna do? We're gonna subvert them. We're gonna go after the black women. We're gonna pump them up. They're gonna disconnect from the black man. He's gonna stay in the gutter, and we can lock him in. We're gonna keep him in a prison industrial complex. Black women aren't getting that. I don't understand why. Why can you see how and why they aren't even trying to comprehend or wrap their head around the bigger picture? It's just black men, y'all ain't up the car.
I don't know if they're not getting it or if it's just so hyper focused on obtaining success on their own. And when I say hyper focus on it, like if I get so focused on, okay, I have a business. I'm trying to stop calling my business a small business, but I have a business. If I get so hyper focused on the business, then guess what I'm gonna lose focus on? My family, my wife, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids. And when you start focusing so much on your success, it's like, okay, every man for himself, literally. Like, buddy, if you ain't where I'm at, then I can't help you. And, generations before us, that empathy was there, that support was there, maybe to a fault. And sometimes those females look at the past generations and how they was empathetic and they were supportive, and look where it got them. And I'm not gonna be like that. I'm gonna be focused on me, and if I lose others in the process, oh well, because they, I think you said something about information earlier. We actually live in an information age, so if anybody ain't out there getting it, that's on them. The very thing that you're trying to push, mental health, you're giving it to the world. You're putting it out there, and I bet you, I'd be willing to bet 2/3 of your friends may not be supportive of you. Everybody else is.
That's a big thing that's past years for us too. It's like you gotta go outside. Let's say rap. You gotta go outside your city to pop, and then your city support you. I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna go. How I'm gonna streamline this. All right. Like I said, the therapy is about autonomy. That's another thing. Therapy is about a therapist holding a mirror and saying, "Hey, this is what you gotta work on. This is what you gotta do." And about this podcast, I'm all about self-autonomy about black men. So I'm not even gonna. Black women are important. They are helpmates. But let's say, all right, black men. All right, so we do gotta not control, but we gotta create our own media, and that's happening. So I got faith in that. People got podcasts, we got access. As I think about it, okay, so there's a system in place that's trying to separate us, and so we need to get more. I would say we need more multimillionaires and billionaires to create the space which Bob Allen has. I was gonna ask, how can a black man get the support? Like I said, we not. There's no program.
You gotta take it. There's not no getting support.
Black women are.
But you can't be concerned about that, right? You gotta take. All right, so again, I can say, I don't know how many. I didn't look to see how many followers you got on. I think I did look to see how many followers you had. We talked about it. But I didn't really focus on how many followers you had on Instagram. I didn't ask you about viewership or listenership when I decided to come on your podcast. If I was so focused on that, then number one, I'm not supporting you. Number two, I'm hurting myself in the end. And when I say I'm hurting myself, we gotta help each other. How do we help each other? By linking up with the people who have the same goal in mind. That's it. We can't wait or focus on quote unquote a handout. I hate to present it as a handout because ultimately it's really help. If there are programs out there, it's to help us, not to be providing handouts. But if we don't have it, we can't say, how can I get a handout or how can I get help? No, we just got to link up with the people who have the same things in mind. And organically, it will work. Organically, when you link up with people who have the same things in mind, things are going to work. Everybody talks about that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I believe at some point in there, and I could be wrong on this, but at some point you realize if I want to be rich, I need to hang around rich people. Is it because that rich person gonna tell you how to be rich? No, they just gonna put you in situations where there's opportunities. Me and you both like mental health. I love mental health. I'm assuming you love mental health.
I do.
If we continue just to network and communicate, something may come of it. Either we're going to do something together, or I'm going to put you in a situation to meet somebody, or you're going to put me in a situation to meet somebody. Or somebody might see this podcast and be like, bam, because they know me. They see you on a podcast, but like, yo, I need to have him on mine. Or vice versa.
Yep.
So again, we got to stop the whole, well, there's nothing for me. So?
Even with that, so there's not a disconnect. There's a difference maybe in the generation between you and I. And I'm with you. Like I said, I'm from the military, so I'm with that whole, so what? Figure it out.
Expect the unexpected.
But even in that, as black men, how come we aren't? There's no benefit of the doubt of saying, maybe that's okay. Like, all other, put it like this country has given handouts to each demographic with no issue except for the black race, men and women, right? I don't know if I talk to those men and they'll say, when the next opportunity comes or we should fight, there's a man that says, nah, let's not go for it. So what? Think about that. The Asians have gotten subsidies through loans, business, because they built the train tracks. Oh, did they build the train?
Oh, I don't know about if they built it.
What did they build? Yeah, they were the ones that helped build.
They could have. I wasn't shaking my head because of that. I was shaking my head because when we talk about the Asian community, I think they just did some type of bill against
Asian hate.
Asian hate. Okay, cool. We've been I think Dr. Umar Johnson. He was on he was on Breakfast Club, and he was talking about how they went through a period of 1 year of quote unquote discrimination, which has been longer than that, but heightened in a year. And then we've been through 400 years, right? And we still don't have an act or whatever it is. The point he was trying to make. I get what he was trying to say, but what we neglect, I think sometimes as a younger generation, or sometimes younger plus African American generation, what we neglect to focus on is a lot of these people that are getting things are giving to get. They might be given monetary benefits to get, but they are giving. We, and I'm generalizing, I should not generalize as a therapist, but I'm generalizing. We typically complain, yell, ask, force the hand verbally, but we ain't willing to give. And we know that because we experience it in our own culture. If you put a party together, how many people gonna give for the success of that party? Nobody, but the people who have to give. But who's gonna benefit from it? Everybody that was at the party, if you put it on correctly. So we're asking for these things. What are we giving? Now, mind you, if somebody just took that the last statement I just said, we asking for stuff, but what are we giving? Somebody can jump in. Man, we gave 400 years of free labor.
First thing anybody gonna say.
100, we did. What are we giving right now? We've gotten to the point since the 80s where we're starting to feel entitled. Yeah, I gave 400 years of a labor. I mean, I went to undergrad in the 90s, right? And then there was that bubble, the internet bubble. Oh, yeah. The internet took off. Whose fault is it that none of those people who was on the internet were black? It ain't their fault. I didn't ride that wave. That was a wave. I didn't jump on it. I didn't ride it. Nor did any of my friends. Was there were people actively trying to push me out? Because I went in it, I don't know, but I would venture to say no. Now that there's being money and getting out of it, then would I say people are keeping us out? Yeah. But that was a conscious decision on my part not to get into computer science, which I was told to get in computer science, which it has actually erupted. So again, information is out there. We got to take advantage of it, and then we got to utilize it to our advantage instead of just saying, okay, I got this information and I need help. Are you going to give me help? No, I'm not going to give you help.
Yeah, that's known to be known and understood at this point. That's what's going to happen. That's what you're going to get. But I personally think we should continue to ask. But to make a counterpoint, and let's not drag it through, but to make a counterpoint and saying, I'm looking at the beginning. I'm looking at these subsidies I'm talking about. They're given to Asians, the Irish, and it's not now. They've eaten, the Asians and Irish, they eaten off generational wealth given to them for 50 plus years. I'm talking about when that was supposed to happen and black people were supposed to get it, they just do. Nothing happened. Asians built the train tracks. The government said, all right, when they come here for business, we're going to give them these subsidized loans. We're going to give them this access. We're not even going to look. And I'm talking about when they give the application and that ethnicity looks like Asian, prove, because they built the train tracks. The Irish, they built the bridges. Prove. Italians, I don't know what the Italians, I forget. No, they were, when I got a documentary, they were like the white blacks when they come. Everybody hated the Italians. But those two, black people, we come, they're not. At that time in the 50s, we did do something like the Asians did. I understand what you're saying now, and today it's things have happened and we have gotten certain things that we fought for. I mean, in that time, where was our subsidized loan supposed to go? Where's that business supposed to go? That in effect trickled down and trickled forward. There's black women are moving forward and getting education, but there are certain things that we didn't get that we were supposed to get. It's supposed to hand it to us.
I get that. But once so we're not getting the same things that they're getting. The only way to get it is to complain to see if we can get it. Or not complain, but to voice it, to see if we get it, right? If that's not working, then we got to get it how we can get it. That means as I gain wealth, then I got to take some of my wealth to influence people who are going to give me that. All right, so that still comes back on us. If I voice it, now what I have to do after that? After I voice it, now I got to go out here and try to gain wealth. I'm not saying like just pull yourself up out of bootstrap and don't care about it. I'm not saying that. You should always voice it. I'm okay with you voicing it, but voice it with the thought of it's not going to be heard. So what am I going to do as a result of that? either I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna get this wealth, or I'm gonna teach somebody else to get the wealth. And then that person that gets the wealth, they need to take some of their wealth to influence whoever's in a position of power to be able to give us what we're voicing.
So the saying in the book, in the good old Bible, faith without work is dead. And the same
There
thing
you go.
is like, you can't speak without, much like therapy. If you just sit here and talk about it, and you walk out here and not doing the work, it ain't gonna do nothing.
Yeah.
I'm with you with that. Like, I'm ingrained in that. But
You said, how can we get, I think at some point you said something about how can we get people to look at us differently. That's how. Money talks, right? And what do most people end up seeing? Black people that are wealthy, what do they say? So did you play sports? Somebody know you play sports? You in music? I remember when me and my wife first got married, we went to this place that was pretty expensive, and it was the place. It was kind of like a boutique, and in that boutique, you had you can't get that stuff anywhere, and it was for it was a female boutique. So I'm in there, like, run the tab. It's for my wife, so it's like, I just want you to go in. I forgot whether it was if I was just doing it just because, but I was trying to, be romantic, right? Just get whatever you want. And the place that I was at, it was linked to a military place, and so the lady was like, she was trying to figure out who I was and why was I running, why I didn't care about price. Me and my wife was the only people in there, I think, in the beginning, and the person was of a different race. I was like, who are you? And where y'all from? You're not from here? Okay, are you military? They was just trying to figure out how I get my money. No, I don't get my money from the military. Then it was like, so what do y'all do? And at the time, what I did wasn't lucrative. I was a case manager, and my wife was too. So then they was trying to find out how these two people with a case management as their background, this at that time was only giving me maybe $30,000 a year. How are they in here talking about let's run the tab? They was just trying to figure it out because they have a vision, or they have a thought process in mind when it's linked to us. And the only way for it to change is for us to start doing different stuff. We got to go beyond just being entertainers. We got to go beyond just being athletes. And we got to go beyond being teachers. Nothing against those people.
The preference, we need way more black male teachers. Let me go to that.
Yeah. We need I think there's a hashtag that goes around, representation matters. We need to be represented in every.
All right, and so you said something earlier that definitely sparked interest about our image, and then we talked about media and how we might have to improve or cast away some old ways and moving forward to get our image to get correct either representation or to properly be not handled. I hate to say handled, but properly engaged with in this country. Now, this kind of goes into relationship, but I want to know how you.
I think you like this whole relationship tidbit.
It's gonna give me some views. Like I said, I watch it. It's gonna give me views, but it goes into almost every aspect of our issue with black men. This whole protector, and I think you said it. You said anxiety about being a protector at that moment, but being a protector and provider. That's also another issue that everyone brings up. It's a big talking point with my generation, and of course, women to say, men who are my age or my age range, we fight and try to be a protector provider. Are y'all really men? They question whether or not we're real men, and this whole real man thing. I'm gonna go ahead and put out. I think I said this before. I hate that term. I don't want anyone, because in this whole label world of whether or not what you are, I'm with that. I'm gonna say I'm with people who say don't call me this. I'm with it. I won't call you what you want, because you as a human being and as an adult who pays taxes, you have the right to be called what you want and what you don't want. And so I go along with it. I'm thinking, I'm like, this whole rhetoric of protector and provider, don't put that on me. I don't want that. Don't call me that. Don't say you want. I choose what I am as a man, and even though I will protect and provide for my family, the reason why I don't say the label, because that label comes with something. You just said it brought you anxiety of thinking whether or not you have to protect at this moment. I'm not saying I don't want the responsibility. I don't want the added on pressure on top of me being a black man in this country where I gotta worry about my own life, and then I already double have to worry about using mine, yours and mine in this area. I want to effectively be able to do that without that pressure, because that's going to have to make me act in a way that I wouldn't if I have to overthink in this moment. But that's just one aspect I'm going to say. The other aspect is this whole relationship thing. This whole protector and provider label that women love is pretty antiquated. And the reason why is because there's another conversation I'm having with these women in my age range about gender roles. Right? Here's this whole thing about not just feminism, but this whole black women bubble thing. Because they're so far ahead of us in education and being entrepreneurial, here comes the thing where they're so independent. There's literally a group, a sect of small black women who's saying the black man is inconsequential. We don't need him. He's not needed in the black diaspora. Okay, black women, so we should just leave him alone in general. But for the other women who are still saying they want to date a black man, who are mostly educated entrepreneur, they say, I'm not just going to sit home and cook for you when you get here. I work too, so you work. Don't come on expecting there to be food on the table. If I choose to cook, I will. If I'm not, you better not bring it up as a real issue here in this household. Don't do that, because I work too. But then I go on the side of, don't call me a protector provider. What do you mean? You're the man. You're the man. It's your job to protect and provide. Is it not your job as the woman to cook and clean? Where do you side on that line? Because you are of a different era, let's say. So I do want to hear your opinion. Full disclosure, I want to hear. Do you believe in the protector and provider rhetoric? Do you believe in gender roles? Do black women have something when they say, ain't no such thing as gender roles, but you better be a protector and provider? They say that with contradiction clear in their throat, and they proud of it.
Yeah, woo.
Let's go. We got time.
Let's go. Let's get it. If we ain't got it already, we gonna get it now.
Get to it. If we ain't got to it, we gonna get to it.
You've said a lot, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to respond to everything, but basically, here's my answer. There has to be roles. If there are not roles, then there's chaos. And you can't live in chaos and be successful. There has to be roles. You, as a couple or as a person, have to decide what role you want to take. I don't agree with you when you said, I don't want to be considered a provider or protector because I don't want that added pressure. That's your choice. But I don't agree with it. I'm gonna have pressure whether I'm a provider, protector or not. I'm gonna have pressure. You know why? I'm a parent. And as a parent, I want to do what's best for my child. And to do what's best for my child, do I know all the answers? No. I don't know all the answers. Yeah. But I gotta still make a decision and try to guide them. That's pressure. I don't know if I need to make my son to go to college or have him be his own business owner, right? But I gotta lead and guide him in a certain direction. Somebody say, well, you don't need to pick for him, you just need to give him information. I gotta give him the right information, right? Mm-hmm. That's pressure. You're not gonna get around that pressure. So going back to roles, yes, there's got to be roles. Somebody got to empty the trash can. Somebody got to bring home, quote unquote, the bacon. Can both of y'all bring home the bacon? Yep. Mm-hmm. Can both of y'all be protectors? Yep.
In a different way.
Something's going to be missing though, or there's going to be, if it's not missing, then there's going to be something that's going to be affected by it. If both of you decide to be protectors and y'all have children, whoever y'all is, if y'all are a couple and y'all have children and y'all are both providers, I should have said, both providers, then that means as a provider, you're going to be out of the home for X amount of hours because both of you are providing. Now what has to happen? Somebody has to pick up the nurturing. Who's going to pick up the nurturing when you are not there to nurture? Because there's going to be times where you still be able to nurture as a provider. But when you're not there, who's going to pick that up? Is it going to be a family member? another family member? Is it going to be a daycare? Is it going to be an after school program? And at that daycare or that after school program or that other family member, what are their morals and values? What are their beliefs? Because those are in that nurturing lane, that's being placed into that child. Here's the bottom line is, it seems as if people just don't want the responsibility of a particular role. If you don't want that, own it. I don't want that responsibility. All right, cool. You don't want that responsibility, but don't try to flip it and say, I don't want that role, and you shouldn't have to place that role on me. Who's to say that I'm supposed to have this role? I'm not going to get into the back and forth about society says this and society doesn't say this, or this the way it's been done from generation after generation. But we can see the results. We can't argue with the results. What they say, numbers don't lie. We can't argue with that. The numbers have proven that when you don't have a father in the role, you have a greater risk of being. I think there's a research that says you have a greater risk of connecting with the mental illness when you don't have there's an absence of a father. And you can actually say that from the mother standpoint too.
Either or, yeah.
What is that saying? That's saying that we as a society need nurture and support from two parties. The two parties that help to come together to create us. We need that. Whether it's biological or not, we need those support. There's another research that came out that said African American males, one of the greater predictors of success, and it was an afterthought in this particular research because they was only focusing on economics, but they found that guys who had a greater rate of success had a strong presence of fathers, not in the home, in the community.
Yeah, in his life period.
So how crazy is that? So we can't get around roles, and we can't get around the importance of that said role that said role plays in our life. We just gotta say, you know what, this is me, and this is gonna work for my relationship. You know,
I was gonna say that top too. Whatever it is in the home, that's why my women in my era were having this big conversation. And some people who will come in and was like, "Why are y'all arguing about this? This is wasting time. What happens in your home? What are you gonna do in your marriage?" Because who's to say there's no book in being married? There's no book in parenting. Do whatever you want as long as you're not inhibiting and affecting, you know what I'm saying, other people. All right, let's get off that point and 100% switch gears because we got kind of wrapped it around, kind of went in circles with this. So I asked this question probably in every interview because any mental health professional probably would have a different viewpoint. I only probably interview black. I would probably interview other therapists, but black therapists right now. What would you say is the number one issue for African American men in this country? And do you have a plausible or foreseeable solution for whatever that issue is for us? Either what's holding us back, why are we in this predicament, and what can we do about it?
I have a favorite saying.
Alright, so as we were saying, to wrap it up real quick, we had an amazing conversation. But end all be all, it's all surrounded the black man. So as you see it in your own personal life and in your practice, what do you see as black men, us being our number one hurdle, issue, whatever you want to call it? What would that be? And what is a plausible solution you could see us bring to it?
I would say there's a statement I love, a quote that I heard: when you learn how to love, you'll know how to live. So loving ourselves, loving each other, and the solution, therapy.
Okay, amazing. Y'all heard it first, Mr. Kervin. I appreciate you for coming, for your time. Hopefully the trip was too easy. I think we had an amazing conversation. I think I'm gonna actually enjoy editing this one. Usually I have a little anxiety about doing that, but of course I want to give you your spotlight, your time, your shine. It's always here what we do here for a mental health podcast. It's about men, it's about the black man. But anyway, let people know where they can find you as far as any social media goes, and any initiatives you might have that you're a part of or you want to shed light to. Free platform, go ahead.
I am Kervin Searles, therapist at Gravity Counseling Group. You can find me at Gravity Counseling Group on Facebook and Instagram. Also, I'm co-host of Speaking with Gravity, which you can also find me on Instagram and podcast. On Instagram and Facebook, Speaking with Gravity, where we talk about mental health. I don't have any real initiative that I have. I do a free group for black men. I do a free group for black men every fourth Monday of each month. It's a space that we create for us to talk and dialogue about any and everything that has to do with mental health. You can come to the physical location, or you can come in on Zoom, but you will have to reach out to us because it's a private group, so I don't want any and everybody in Zoom. So just link up with us via DM on Facebook or Instagram, Gravity Counseling Group. Just put in Gravity Counseling Group, you'll find me.
Fine. Amazing. I mean, I definitely might want to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to DM them myself. I'll be a part of it. If you want to be a part of it, please come with me. Let us have many needed conversations. Once again, sir, I want to thank you for coming. I don't know how you do with COVID, my brother. Thank you very much. I hope you have a blessed day, safe travels. Hopefully we can speak again.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, we can do it again. Do it again.
Please do.
Yeah, we left a lot on the table, so we can definitely do it again.
Exactly. Once again, thank y'all for listening and coming through. This is the Mental Health Podcast. Y'all have a blessed day. Peace.